Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, it's been a busy month, but unfortunately not for the channel. I've only been doing, I think, Monday Monologues, maybe a couple of videos in between. Been super busy since I decided to get this business venture started, building amps, doing prototypes of these different things, working on some of these EAR 834 clones, and just want to kind of go over the three products that we're going to be starting off selling. One we've been selling for a while is my EAR 834 clone phono preamp. And I'll have to say, everyone that I've demoed it to or has bought one has just fallen in love with the sound that this thing creates. It's very detailed and open and airy. Cleans up muddy sounding recordings, or they don't come across muddy sounding. It really brings the vocals out and also has a really powerful bass. Just, to me, it's transformed every system that I've plugged it into. And I'm still stunned sometimes when I replace what are known to be, or at least the internet's saying, are really good sounding phono preamps. I'll pull that out, put this in, and I have yet to have someone say, yeah, I don't really hear any difference. Every time they're, how much is it? And I end up not leaving their house with it. And so, or they order one for me to build for them. So, super great sounding product. They're selling for $850 now, and you can get them in either silver RCA jacks and the ground and the trim plate, or you can get them in gold. So those are the two options. I personally like the silver. The getters are silver. The newest ones I'm doing have the tubes peeking out of the top of the chassis a little more. You can see the top of the heater glowing, which people like seeing, while it still shields the tubes from the electromagnetic interference that the transformer, even though these have end bells on them, there is some electromagnetic stuff going around, and so it's good to have the tubes recessed so they're shielded. If you look at most old school preamps, they have like metal shields over the tubes. There's a reason for that. It's to shield the tubes from microphonics, noise in the room, all that kind of stuff. These things are super high gain. They're hotter than a lot of the phono preamps out on the market, so they'll work fine with the high output moving coil cartridges. The low voltage moving coils, definitely going to need a step-up transformer. These will not work with that without a step-up transformer, which is what I use for my low voltage moving coil cartridge that I have. So next is the EL34. Was going to be a 12AX7. Fell in love with this 5751 tube, so we're just going to call it the SDEL34 amp. It's got a Sovtek 5AR4 rectifier. Obviously, you can use whatever 5AR4 you want to. This will work with KT77s. It'll work with 6CA7s. It'll work with EL34s. These tube rings keep it from seating KT66 tubes, so just be aware of that. And I really don't want to change this just for that one tube type. There's not that many KT66 tubes out there now anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that. You can use a 12AX7 here. The 5751 actually sounds better in this amp, so that's what I'm going to be selling them with. JJ EL34Ls and a JJ 5751, the standard red, the standard pin one, and then a Sovtek 5AR4. You can get it as a power amp with the RCA jacks either on the side like this one has, or we can put them in the back. For a $75 upgrade, you can get the volume control, and then I can either put the RCA jacks on the side or in the back. And then if you want to have two inputs, that's it, no more than two. Put a rocker switch here on the side, a little black rocker switch that you're really not going to see. Somebody was saying you could put it, why don't you put it underneath, because you can't reach underneath it without putting bigger feet on it. and I don't want to stand this thing super high off the ground with some big thick feet, so there's really not a place to put it there. I don't think putting it in the back is convenient. It's almost like if you're going to put it in the back, just swap the cables. So have 4 RCA jacks in the back with a switch and a volume control. It's kind of the top shelf model. You can get it with either silver trim, which would be silver knob, silver trim rings, silver plate, silver RCA jacks, silver speaker jacks, the whole deal, or the champagne gold color. With the silver, I'm going to be doing them with this black, and with the champagne gold, you can either get this, it's kind of a graphite with a little bit of really fine metallic in it, or there's a bronzy color that I've showed you in another video. That's kind of more of a bronze hammer finish instead of this graphite hammer finish. Doing an upgrade to the power supply, adding one more RC filter, which is a resistor capacitor. We're going to put a 5-watt 50 ohm resistor with another 100 UF cap as the secondary filtering. Worked out the whole thermal solution, got the cooling vents at the bottom placed over the right places to help make sure that any kind of trapped heat comes out of the top, and should make for a happy amp. Been playing around with the musical power supplies, output transformers, changed the shade feedback resistor, running a little less feedback, and they're sounding really good, but they're different. And I'm starting to think that might be a way to tailor the sound of this amp to your system, that the egg cores are probably going to be a better fit for folks that don't use a powered sub, and they're just depending on the amp to produce the whole bass range, across the whole spectrum. The musical power supplies seem a little lighter in the bass department, but they've got cleaner mid and high end, and they also make a little more power. And so for you folks that are running a powered sub, those musical power supply transformers are probably going to be a better fit. But I still need to do some more testing with that. I want to take 2 amps out to a guy's house that has, and hey Ron, just said shout out to you. Thanks for all your help with the streamer advice and stuff, which we'll get into in a minute. But I want to take the 2 amps out to his house. He is running a powered sub off the speaker jacks, and I want to hear what the 2 amps sound like, and we may be making recommendations from there. He's going to be one of the first customers getting one of these amps, and so I'm going to build one with head cores, one with musical power supplies of the finished, not the prototypes, but the finished actual amps, and then take him out to his house and demo him on his system. He's getting one with a volume control, 2 inputs. He does a lot of streaming, so we can, listen to it with a streamer box, listen to it with his turntable, try it with my EAR 834 clone versus his box that he's using now, and do a little more testing. I did a demo last weekend with a user and learned some stuff, mainly that this EAR 834 clone made more difference than anything in the sound of his system. So if you don't have a good phono stage, if you're listening to vinyl, you need to get that cleaned up first. I think a lot of people skip on the phono stage, and they don't realize how really important that is. And these little $150, and less boxes just aren't doing it, guys. I don't care who makes it. They're not going to get everything that's out of the vinyl. So before you spend $2,000 on an amp, make sure you've got your vinyl setup dialed in. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at on these 2 products. This is the one I'm really excited about. And I've done a video series on this before. Look up my color preamp. I'll link it below. And this is going to be a very unique product in the market. And I think it's going to fill a void where there really isn't anything right now. On the 2 preamps, most of them that people are building and selling are kind of old school design 2 preamps. And they're from a time when, they were selling power amps that needed 5 or 6 volts RMS to make full power. So they were designed to be used with a preamp that had a lot of gain. Well, nobody's building power amps like that anymore. I mean, none of the solid state amps that have been built in a long time are built like that. And the preamp ends up being basically just the controller for the amp, and in a lot of cases, just a passive preamp, or I know that's kind of a misnomer, but because there's no amplification, but it's just a volume knob and a switcher box. And for a lot of people, like that little Rolls makes a box like that, and there's a couple of others, and I'll put links below to them, that do the job just fine. What this is designed for is if you have some inefficient speakers like some Magnepans or some old JBLs or something like that that really do need 50 to 100 watts of power to drive them and really are current hungry, which tubes are not good at doing. I think you are better using a solid state amplifier and then getting the second order harmonic richness that tubes provide out of the preamplifier. And the way this preamp works is the volume knob is on the output of the preamp, which is the opposite of what almost every other preamp made is doing. And then on the RCA input jacks, there is a couple of small screwdriver adjusted potentiometers, kind of like the bias pots on a fixed bias tube amp, where you adjust how strong the input signal from your source is going into the grid of these 12 AU7s. And by adjusting that, you're adjusting the amount of second order harmonic distortion that the tubes are introducing into the signal path. And that's what we're looking for, is some nice, smooth, second order harmonic distortion to give us that rich tube sound that, hey, that's what y'all are watching this channel for. And then the volume knob is on the output so that that same amount of harmonic distortion exists across the whole volume range instead of increasing as you turn the volume up, which is one reason people listen to music louder. Isn't because the higher sound pressure levels sound better. It's because they're getting into the range of power that their tube amp starts making some harmonic distortion that sounds good. And so with this color preamp, and color because it colors the sound a little bit intentionally, that it's doing that across the whole volume range. So even at low volume levels, you've got that rich tube sound that most tube amps don't deliver until you really crank the volume up. So I think I'm going to be building these pretty exclusively in these oak chassis with the brushed aluminum tops. And I kind of screwed this prototype up. I originally thought the power switch would look good up here, and then after I put it in, it's like, ooh, that doesn't look good. And so I moved it back here, then I had a hole in the chassis. It's like, so let me drill some holes here. And I drilled a hole and put a screen in it to kind of fill in the hole. It's like, now it looks asymmetrical. So I drilled another hole on the other side, and I really just don't like the way those screens look. And so these aluminum plates aren't super expensive. I think I'm just going to start over on this prototype and drill it, re-drill everything on a new piece of aluminum and put the power switch here in the back. It's got the nice little, angel eye push button switch like we're using on, this amp too. And then I like the white transformer. I think that really looks good on this, brushed aluminum finish. I mean, I could build these in a steel Hammond chassis like this. So let me know in the comments if you think I ought to do one in steel too. But I feel like that it really looks awesome in this oak finish with the brushed aluminum and gives it a little different look than some of my other stuff. Some people say these look a little plain, and I think at some point I'm going to be also building this EL34 in this style chassis and get my friend to make me some boxes, get some aluminum cut for the top, and do the, there'll be a little a little bigger footprint because the wood's going to be out here, and I'm not going to just put wood sides on this metal box. I don't think that's, I don't know, that just seems cheap and kind of cheating, and I don't know, I just, pretentious, I don't know, I just don't like that. And so probably be doing the same thing where I have the volume knob on the top of it. You know, it might sit, right there and not have anything on the front. Have a power switch over here, or I don't know, we'll figure that out when I get to doing that. And I say it might be a little bigger footprint than these ones in the black chassis and have a little different look for that. So I was kind of waiting to see what kind of response I got from my putting out for pre-order video and how many people are actually, committed to paying. These are selling for $19.50. Again, these are $8.50. These are going to be somewhere in the $1,000 range, I think. I got to sit down and, price up the BOM. Obviously, this uses less parts, so I think I can do those, for probably half of what this sells for. And then I got such great response. I've got 10 of these sold. So I went ahead and did some bulk orders, invested about 10 grand into parts to start building all this stuff. And that's not enough to build all this stuff, but it's going to be a good start. And should be able to have 4 of these available soon. Should be able to have 4 of these available soon. And on these, there's obviously now they're waiting list. And I'm not giving anybody, like, here's when it's going to be ready. I don't know. Some of the stuff is out of my control, like these output transformers. I don't know when I'm going to get them. Some of it depends on, how many people want these ED cores versus musical power supplies. If everybody wants ED cores, that's going to put things behind. Or if everybody wants musical power supplies, it's going to put it all behind because I ordered enough for 5 amps of each. And then I've got all the iron for this. So I can kind of get some stuff kind of pre-built and just wait for the output transformers, but not taking deposits, just putting people's names on a list. And if by the time the amp's ready, they've changed their mind, just go to the next person on the list. So that's kind of where we're at. As far as the channel, I'm planning on doing some new content soon. And I'm putting together a shootout on DACs. I've just recently got into playing around with streamer boxes and really just kind of dive into this whole streamer world. I know a lot of people have been doing this for a long time, but I thought, hey, let's do a video on that. And I've got one more company, which I'm going to keep a secret for now, that I've asked to send me a demo box of their product, and we'll see if they show up in time for the shootout. But I think that would be relevant to a lot of people. And we're going to go from like $150 to $800 something DAC boxes. We're not going to go the super high end, and just see what the difference is in them at the different price points. And then once I get this solidified, we're going to do a build series on the EL34 amp and show you how everything's laid out, get the schematic online. I need to work on my website. Oh, and I did have an issue with my messaging off my website. Previously, I've been using this form on my website that went to like this Wix inbox, and then I decided to get a steph@skunkydesigns.com email, but now the messages are getting split between the 2 different platforms. Some people are using the forum, some people are sending me emails. I couldn't figure out where people's emails were going. Then they started doing some weird thing when I would reply on the online forum or the online inbox. Then the replies would come to my other mailbox. And anyway, I've got all that sorted out. So you can use the form, or you can send me a direct email and it ends up in the same inbox. If you've got links to that old Wix something email, don't contact me there because I'm not looking at that inbox anymore. So if you send an email there, I'm not going to see it because it's just too confusing. So I got that sorted out. So finally, I want to thank all you folks that have been supporting my channel with your subs and views and watching my videos. Without that, none of this other stuff would have happened. I do want to get back to doing YouTube content for you guys, and I know a lot of you aren't going to be buying products from me and all that. That's not why you're here. So I need to kind of shift my focus away from this stuff and back to DIY projects and stuff on the channel as well, and make sure that I'm, using my time for both. And thanks for your patience while I was working through getting this business started. I think I'm kind of at a point now where I can take a breath and work on some fresh content. I do have some cool other projects that I want to be doing videos on. Got some push-pull amps and just some cool stuff that I've really been wanting to do. I've got the parts to build a 2A3 amp and some other neat stuff. I'll be publishing all the info about this. Like I said, doing a video series on building this amp if you want to DIY it. So thanks for your patience. Thanks to you Patreon supporters. Thanks to you folks that are purchasing my products. This is unbelievable. And it was all because of you guys. So anyway, I'll see you next week for the Monday Monologue.